Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red for Anfield Index. It shows how late we are in the season that this is the last week that Liverpool will play 2 games in a week. Just after Everton on Wednesday night, will come Fulham on Sunday for the final time, as we say, 2 games in a week. But we don't really care that much, don't we? Let's be honest. It's all about that procession to the title. It's all about stories on the field and off the field. That's what Daily Red is all about. And I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from pretty windy Edinburgh, to be honest. The wind just seems windy everywhere in the UK at the moment. Hopefully it is nice wherever you are. But on the 5th of April, Saturday the 5th of April, let's get into the stories and everything that is dominating the headlines and the news at the moment. And off the field, people, it's striker talk, isn't it? Forward talk, if you want to be pedantic. But Liverpool are clearly going to be after at least one. Darwin Núñez is clearly off this summer. Still be a 9 on target, and people will be looking at other positions. Diaz, there's question marks against Jota, etc. Isn't there? There is question marks galore. And now names are coming to the front of the queue, aren't they? So let's get into the stories doing the rounds today. And the first name really up, David Lynch mentioned him on Media Matters, Matheus Cunha, the Brazilian international, Wolves forward. You wouldn't really call him a striker, would you? Fair to say. A player that we know has a £62.5 million release clause, and a player whose underlying stats, ladies and gents, for those that can see it on YouTube, are pretty damn impressive. Even just shot total in the 85th percentile, above the 3 average at Liverpool. Players are normally measured at shot creating actions in the 95th percentile. Even between the boxes, as Bart's always talks about, progressive carries, 98th percentile. Successful take-ons, 98th percentile. And from a team that needs pressing from the front and an aggressive forward, look at this. Tackles in the 94th percentile, but this may be more impressive. Interceptions in the 99th percentile, blocking those passing lanes. Also at 15 goals and 4 assists all season, 19 goal contributions for a massively struggling Wolves side. You can get why David Lynch and other people like Matheus Cunha. The question mark's always going to be, injury record pretty decent, it's fair to say as well, but the question mark with Matheus Cunha has to be, don't be headbutting stewards. Yeah, Kirkes might well be your teammates. That'll be a fun conversation if it was to happen, wasn't it, in that regard? But yeah, it's maybe just temperament, I think, at the moment. But Matheus Cunha, just for all the metrics and all the things you see, and it's understandable why David Lynch is saying he's one that's liked. We'll have to see what happens there. One that he did cast a bit of doubt on, which is interesting, is Liam Delap. Now, he hit a goal for Ipswich again the other night. I mean, they've had a stinker of a season, haven't they? But Liam Delap, 11 goals and 2 assists for a stinking Ipswich team. The info that we've got from analysts, because when you look at his numbers, they don't scream anything particularly impressive here, do they? You'd say, his biggest standouts are his progressive carries in the 84th percentile, his successful take-ons in the 86th. So there's nothing that really stands out on the surface. But the surface numbers at the same time, to have got 11 goals for Ipswich is impressive. Also, from the information we've got from analysts at Anfield Index, that Liverpool like the price tag, especially 40 million. And it's not nothing, but in elite forward terms, it's a pinch of salt, isn't it, for the market and the way it is at the moment. Homegrown, that'll come into the thinking as well. But the other key bit of info we've got around Liam Delap is that they really like the fact he can almost occupy 3 defenders at once, that they really like the fact he will run the channels hard, and he is a physical specimen and a half, Liam Delap, that way as well. Maybe in a weird way, and I'm not saying this is necessarily complimentary for a lot of people, similar in essence to Darwin Núñez, you could say, for the underlying or the general makeup of the player. So our info is, I know David Lynch is not keen on this player and cast doubt on the move, but I wouldn't rule this out. And just to be clear, he's not my top pick by any means, but he's one that you could see him, if there was a couple, well being in the mix. And again, that 40 million price tag, homegrown, the physical metrics would well appeal to Liverpool. So another one to keep an eye on. This came out as well yesterday, isn't it? Shout out to the Hungarian hipster himself, Ben Boxak, mentioned that Liverpool and 2 other Premier League clubs have held talks with Hugo Ekitike's representatives last week. Having a great season for Frankfurt, isn't he? Well-known, price tag suggested around the 60 million mark at the same time as well. There's a couple of things to say on the metrics of Ekitike. I mean, there's so much to like on the surface. I mean, non-penalty XG and XAG 99th percentile. I mean, for those that can see it on the screen, there's so many 90th plus percentiles. It's insane on all his attacking metrics. They really are. Even progressive carries, 90th percentile. Successful take-ons, 97th percentile. Again, we talked about the defensive element that Liverpool like with their forwards in the 96th percentile for that. So much to like around Hugo Ekitike. And Ben Boxer had that story that his agent, or his rep, had been talking to Liverpool and 2 other clubs. The other positives, I mean, he's rapid. 35.5 kmh, like rapid. So pace is an element there. And maybe at the price mark, just suggests it could be quite attractive for Liverpool. The only things just to call out, which we always like to heed the note of caution, it is his agents, his rep, as we know at Anfield Index, that are making a lot of noise, which isn't usually liked by Liverpool Football Club. And it just puts that seed of doubt, shall we say, in your mind, the fact that it is the agents talking so much. Because if this was happening naturally, would they be talking that much? Yeah, just something to consider. And then the other element to really consider, not disparaging of the player, but the Bundesliga tax. So as the up guys, shouts them, will often tell you that the tax in that regard is 0.84. So you'd have to almost deduct 16% from these metrics. So if you put that in the Premier League, I'm not saying they wouldn't be good at all, just maybe not quite as impressive. But others will shout about Ekitike that he is only 22. He is still developing pace. All those things we mentioned, you would be astonished if he isn't in the mix for Liverpool that way. LAPS saying the key thing here is the price that makes Delap very attractive to Liverpool, let's be honest. I'd agree with that. If it was the 60, 70 million, I think it's an absolute no chance. But 40 million in the current market, not necessarily the first choice, but if 2 were to come in, you could well see Delap being the one. Then again, Vinicio, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, said big waste of money, nowhere near good enough. Yeah, that is our info. And again, as we're saying this, let's just be clear. Liverpool are watching a boatload of forwards, aren't they, of all different types. Probably some of these are just leak names to distort the process, as we know they like to as well. But yeah, it's an interesting mix. Fidel Alexander saying TK is more mobile than Delap, can also play wide, may come into the mix as well. Everyone's got their thoughts on these forwards, no 2 ways about it. And the debate sprung a bit further. I don't know if anyone clocked this late yesterday, but Lyle Thomas at Sky Sports wrote an article analysis on the moves that clubs are looking for. United, Arsenal, no one cares. But us and the strikers Liverpool want this summer that he wrote about. Isak, I mean, everyone knows about this. This is nothing brand new at all. Everyone knows that. But again, it's still just on the lines of you can't see it, can you? We'd love it, but you can't see it. And also, if you're going to spend in 100 million plus on a striker, they should be, titanium, nuclear blast proof. And injury records like his, that's always going to be the sticking point for a lot of people. No doubt about his talent. This name was one that it made me not laugh a little bit, but surprised me because a lot of people picked up on this. Victor Osimhen is another player that Liverpool admired for some time, a similar profile, and set to be back on the market again when his season-long loan at Fenerbahce ends and he returns to Napoli. It's not a new story, and as he wrote, it's been admired for some time. It's known as we got it Anfield Index, and others have wrote, it's not our exclusive by any means. When in January, Darwin Núñez was looking at possibly moving to the Saudi League, Liverpool were having a serious look at Osimhen, even if it was a short-term option. But obviously, there's all sorts of issues there with the Napoli contract, the Galatasaray loan, so it wasn't pursued. And ultimately, Darwin didn't go, so it never came to fruition. But Victor Osimhen is not a new name for Liverpool. Now, some are going to look at certain things on Victor Osimhen and rule him out straight away. Some are going to look at certain things and go, hold on. Now, yes, it is in the Turkish league. Some will say 20 goals in 23 games isn't anything, but 6 out of 7 in Europa is a healthy strike rate. And if you say no, it's Europa, well, that's where Ekitike is. So, keep that in mind as well. Couple of things there. Benicio saying very injury prone and way overpriced. We'll talk about injury prone. I can get behind that overpriced. This could be key. Salah's position, no. Salah plays on the right, as we know. Osimhen is a central striker. For this, though, when you look at his profile, there's a lot of high percentiles there, isn't there? I mean, non-penalty XG, 99th percentile. Yeah? For those that can see it on the screen, touches in the penalty area, 99th percentile. Shots per 90, 5.94. That's an insane metric, that. And that's why it's in the 99th percentile. Yes, he doesn't attempt many passes. Yes, 12th percentile, pass completion's low. It's all about, really, that he gets his touches in the penalty area. That's where he comes alive. He's a finisher, isn't he? There's no two ways about it. He's also strong in the air, 75th percentile there, aerials 1. Interception's not bad, actually, 78th percentile, but you'd be hiring Osimhen as a finisher, wouldn't you, or taking him on as a finisher if that's what you wanted. And that's maybe what Liverpool were looking at, specifically in January and the summer. And people talking about injuries and price with Osimhen, it's a big consideration. Price is a difficult one because the wages wouldn't be small. There'd be huge wages. There's no doubts about that he'd be wanting, which probably negates the deal. But this aside, only a year left in the summer on his Napoli contract, and they want rid of him. So that's going to come into the mix. They'll be desperate for a bidding war. But even then, with a year left to go, price could be an interesting one for Osimhen, couldn't it? Injury history, and I know people say he's heavily injury prone. If you look to this season, 6 games through muscle strains there as well, which is, it's not huge, but it's not small. I understand that. A fever, he's got ill. I know some people are referencing that. That's not going to really count. But there's the odd game missed, I think it's fair to say, but it goes back to October 2023 for a last real 9 games in a row missed for a heavy injury. So I'm not saying he's injury-free, but maybe just injury-prone is stretching it a little bit. As always, the truth's usually somewhere in between 2 points, as they say. It's one of those. He is 26. He will be 27 in December there. So it's not a standard FSG signing, but I wouldn't discount this completely. I wouldn't be completely against it. For a couple of seasons, a goal machine, I could get behind that, to be honest, just because of the nature the market is. And maybe even you get him for a year and then look to flip it, as they were that way, for a younger option. But if Victor Osimhen ended up at Anfield, just to be clear, would he be my first choice? Absolutely not whatsoever. Would he be a bad choice? I would disagree with that. I would not be against Victor Osimhen if he ended up at Anfield. Fidel Alexander saying, that the history, Napoli's title-winning season, spectacular, fast, incisive movements, great in the air, ruthless finisher. He's not a facilitator, as Arne Slot mentioned. There's not really much more to his game. He's a goal machine, isn't he? But goals pay the bills, as they say. So it's just another one to keep in mind. There are striker links galore, as it says at the moment there. It's just so hard to know what type of forward, which one it's going to be. Probably multiple. And again, with you expect Diaz, there's question marks against Jota going. But there's plenty of links. There's plenty of links. And that's the ones that are fresh this morning. Tafsir agreeing with David Lynch there, saying, I want Cunha, the Wolves striker. Reminds me of Suarez. Got that S-housery about him. We've not got that type of player. Yeah, if we could just avoid the headbutting stewards, Tafsir, that would be the good thing. But I wouldn't be against that as well. So those are the striker links everywhere this morning. In other news, Arne Slot speaking in the embargo, and I loved his comments. They're two different ones. So shout out to Lewis Steele at the Daily Mail who publicised these. We've had him on Media Matters before. Like both of the comments that Arne Slot made. So when he was asked about the depth of talent in the league and the smaller clubs, he said, the league is better than it ever was. Even Pep said there will not be a team again as long as he lives that gets more than 100 points and wins the league 4 in a row. So many more teams have so many good players. All clubs, even some who are fighting against relegation, have some players who can play for City, for Arsenal, for Chelsea and those types of teams, like Cunha, for instance, as many people mentioned. The reason why teams you may expect to have more points don't have them is because the league has become stronger. That is probably why it's such a compliment for us that we do have these points at the moment. People just ignore the narrative of the mainstream that they're trying to breed at the moment. The mainstream media is going for this narrative that it's only a title win. The league's weak, downplay because it's Liverpool as much as possible. Just look at the facts. They're so obvious. Those mid-table teams, like your likes of your Bournemouth, your Brentfords, all those, that look at Brentford even, and Buemo, quality player liked by a lot of clubs. Visser, the same. You look at Bournemouth, you look at Kirkes, Semenyo, who's been linked with us and other big clubs as well. Like all the middle ground in the Premier League have real talented players. That's why it's tough. That's why you're seeing the big traditional names struggle so much. And if you doubt that, look at where Tottenham, United and others are in the league. Are you telling me they wouldn't take Mbeumo right now? Are you telling me they wouldn't want Semenyo? They'd cry for them, literally. Let's be clear on that. So it was a spot on comment from Arne Slot in the embargo. It wasn't my favourite Arne Slot comment, though, I have to be honest. Michael Owen got it, and Michael Owen got it tight from the head coach and the skipper, which I adore. When Arne Slot was asked about only winning the Premier League, and it came from Michael Owen in reference to a question which we'll see that he asked Virgil van Dijk, he said, let me understand it right. Virgil was a bit frustrated because it came across as it's not enough to only win the Premier League. Michael Owen played for us, didn't he? So he is aware of the fact that in 35 years, we won the league once. There is your answer. If you can win the league with this club, then phew, nothing else matters. Absolutely correct. Absolutely spot on. We've honestly got to just bin off any mainstream narrative. To me, I wouldn't even give it any oxygen, but it is relevant in this context. So for those that haven't seen it or heard it, let me just play the clip and the audio of Michael Owen to Virgil van Dijk. And honestly, the fact that he even introduced himself with, hi, it's Michael Owen, as though he's important at the start, you can see Virgil's face. But let's listen. Let's see what was said.
Virgil, it's Michael Owen. Well played tonight on the clean sheet and the victory. I'm just thinking, in terms of the season so far, if you'd said at the start of the season you're going to win the Premier League, I'm sure everybody would have been over the moon. However, it was building into something really special. How hard was it after a couple of big defeats in cup competitions to sort of get your mind tuned back into the Premier League and to finish the season well?
So you're suggesting that this season is not going to be special anymore?
It will be, absolutely. Well, it will be special. But I thought it could have been building into something very special.
I think we have to change that narrative a little bit. I think we're fighting for the biggest prize of the season. We work so hard for that 20 teams are working so hard to try and be on top of the.
Did you see Michael Owen shit his pants in that second where he literally says, "Oh, it was building into something special." And then Virgil van Dijk, quite rightly, because the skipper brilliantly pulls him up on it and said, "So you're saying title win's not special?" And then literally tries to correct himself, doesn't he? With, "Oh, no, I wasn't saying it wasn't special." They were very special, as though that little word changes the whole nature of what he's saying. I mean, someone please correct me if I'm wrong in the chat panel. I think someone said the other day he's still a Liverpool ambassador. I am praying that is absolutely incorrect and that's been taken away, not relevant, however you want to phrase it. But literally, the mainstream media narrative around Liverpool, you've got to ignore it, people, in one sense, but also correct it in the other, which I know sounds hypocritical. But what I'm saying is you're hearing that type Michael Owen nonsense, absolute nonsense. You've heard it, as we mentioned on this channel, on others, saying it was only a title win. Nonsense. And then even in the last week or so, how many ex-players, pundits, etc., have you heard tell us about what we should think around Trent? Absolute pish. How many have come out and said, "Oh, we should respect his decision"? Like, players who are not fans, don't understand the club, don't understand the city, the makeup, all those elements, telling you what you should think. Ignore it in one sense. Don't, because I see people go, "Oh, correct it." Just make it clear. And you make it clear by being loud. You make it clear by savouring every single minute of this title running. But the only thing I would hope is anyone who listened to Michael Owen now knows what absolute tosh he talks, in all honesty. And it was nice to see him. Yeah, Vinicio said Owen nearly fell off the seat. Yeah, maybe because it was a code brown going on there. But yeah, worth playing that, worth doing that as well. And yeah, Mr. War, terrible to say. It seems Michael Owen might still be an official LFC ambassador. Tragic that needs to be corrected. And if you don't believe us, listen to Arne Slot, listen to Virgil van Dijk on that one. So well worth calling out. Other people that may just need correcting. Oh, Ange, what has happened to you? Spurs just grinds down anyone. I think actually people who come out Wormwood scrubs have a better mentality than those who get ground down by Spurs, in all honesty. It's just one of those clubs that I think it just does things to managers and people involved. But for those who haven't seen it or can't see it on YouTube, Ange embargo comments from Tottenham, thinking why we're talking about this, because he mentions us and he says, when decisions go against Liverpool, there's been a national campaign. But when they go against Tottenham, he's left to defend them on his own and enough people don't speak out. It's funny that, Ange, about not enough people speaking out, because wasn't this you after the Luis Diaz famous disallowed goal at Spurs? Let's just remind ourselves what he said.
No form of technology is going to make the game errorless. We used to understand that errors were part of the game, including officiating errors, and some people copped it better than others, but that was part of the game. When you put such a high bar on something, invariably it's going to fail. So if people are thinking that VAR is going to be something at some point that is perfect, that's never going to happen.
It's never going to be perfect. We heard him say about oh, the referees need respect previously. It's just who he is, mate, and all that stuff. As a few commented in the chat panel, yeah. It's funny that. But now all of a sudden, there's a national campaign when decisions go against Liverpool. There's not a national campaign, Ange. It's just some decisions by the likes of Messrs. Tierney and others are just that bad. Like not giving James Tarkowski a red card the other night. It wasn't a case of a national campaign. Everyone in the game, even for God's sake, even Big Dunk on Sky Sports said it was a red card. But I think this is just a good example, and referencing us in this way, how it's kind of funny, right? Tottenham's just beaten him down. Mr. Warput's there, yeah, the loneliest man in North London. It just almost me worrying if fans need saving from himself a little bit in that role. But yeah, an interesting one either way. Premier League, we know our game is tomorrow against Fulham, 2:00 kickoff. Make sure you don't miss that one, of course. But just in case you have got a free afternoon coming up, in around 45 minutes, Everton are kicking off at home against Arsenal. Wouldn't it be nice if it was still 12 points by the time that finishes? And by the way, James Tarkowski, if you really want to apologise to Alexis McAllister in the right manner like you did, just bang a header in or another 90-odd minute winner, etc. That would be the ultimate act of forgiveness. So there is still a few games, we say, on this weekend and today to fill your calendar there. For us, we have got you covered. Look at that. Even in the last day or so, 24 hours, you've got reviews of the derby just gone. You've got reviews of Fulham and previews, I should say, sorry, coming up. You've got player reviews, tactical analysis there as well. Centre-backs, forwards, as we've just done. There is plenty of content. And even from tomorrow, you'll have the normal like Jack for pre-match, the game, the watch-along, and the Raw Boys afterwards, and Gag Show, etc. So content out the wazoo for you as well. If you're more of a reader, as we say, there's plenty of articles for you there to get stuck into, especially it seems to be forward links galore, doesn't it? Absolutely plenty on the radar for you there. But there we go. Saturday, the 5th of April. Who'd have thought? Michael Owen talks absolute pish. Who'd have thought? Stevie there. Gotta love him in the box, taking photos with Mo Salah and others. How two different people are viewed in Liverpool quite correctly as well. Forward links galore at the same time. Who's yours? The Cunha man, Ekitike. Wouldn't mind a cheeky Osimhen signing. Still looking at the big names like Isaac and Alvarez. Do you believe they're possible? We'll all see it differently. But one thing we all agree on, there's at least one forward coming to Anfield at least this summer. And one thing we can all agree on, which sounds maddening on Saturday, the 5th of April, is that in about 45 minutes' time, we're actually wanting Everton to do the business. We will see what happens there. But there we go, ladies and gents. Saturday, the 5th of April. That was another Daily Red for Anfield.